Здравствуйте, товарищи.
Greetings, motherfuckers. It's me, Pierre XO, with
The tentacle, the squid,
Cole.
the squidward.
They were discussing certain names that they could call themselves. There's like croissant tours, but I was thinking croissant could be one.
Croissantisseur. Yes, because that means we can take two French words, mash them together, and butcher them both at the same time, which as an Englishman pleases every anti-French instinct I have. So you
And
are
it
all now
makes it
croissanteurs.
it's even 10 times more complicated to spell and say.
Yeah, it's awful. I mean, tentacle croissant is a really hard name, so we should have croissantisseurs. Should be, yeah, definitely.
Croissantosaurus.
You all deserve this pain and far worse things besides that I haven't even imagined yet.
All right. Well, good morning, afternoon, and evening to everybody in the chat. As this message says here, how are you doing, Richard? Can we take off that thing?
Yeah, I'm not sure where that's there. Hello, beautiful people, says Sereem Owl. Man, I'm French and so offended already. Good. I want you to feel more offended. I spoke to a girl in the gym the other day on the reception, and I was speaking Spanish to her, and then she was counting something for me, and she was counting in French, and I was like, "Oh, you're French," and I tried to drop some French on her, and midway through, I was like, "You haven't spoken French since you were 19. You should stop." It was so bad. I dropped the ball so badly. You know, you sort of drop the ball, you start stuttering, trying to pick it up again, and then in the end, I just left it on the floor, and I was like, "I'm never going to torture you by speaking French to you ever again." And she was like,
you know what's funny is like, it's a very like baseline level understanding of travel. When people suggest, if you're going to move to a place or go to a place, you should learn the language. But as you and me know, you travel anywhere long term, they don't want you speaking the fucking language, man.
Like, stop it. Stop hurting my
They'd be like, I don't want to hear your cringy, terribly pronounced hello, good evening, one croissant, please.
Well, I was thinking about the other day the fact that like I can bluff it in Spanish. So if I speak Spanish, generally speaking, the response here I get is good. And you think, that's good, Richard, well done. Yes. And then as I was crossing the road the other day, I thought, when did I first start learning Spanish? When I was 14, which is 372 decades ago. It's a whole, I learned it when the Spanish Inquisition was in full force. And it's taken, more of my life I've been alive speaking Spanish than not. By quite a bit, like 3/4 of my life. And I speak okay-ish Spanish. That's how much it takes. It takes
if you're traveling around and you're talking to people that have a handle on English, they don't want to speak their native language with you, a foreigner that's the native English speaker. So reasonably, to learn a few greetings to show your respect for the culture is just enough. Other than that, it's like, bitch, shut your fucking ass up. I can't even tolerate your terrible accent saying hello.
Yeah, it's horrifying. It's a horrifying mess.
But there's actually, speaking of butchering French culture, apparently Netflix came out this series to start off lighthearted in pop culture. They came out this series called Emily in Paris, and it's like the most entitled, spoiled white girl going to Paris and being like the worst. And it seems like it's done in a very unaware lens, and they're painting French culture like a complete caricature. It's fucking.
Is it French made?
No. It's totally American made. One comment was really funny, and it was saying like it's almost as if the writers had one bad experience in France and then made a whole movie based on it. And and they were kind of like, there was scenes in the thing where they're like, "Hey, Emily, the truth is that the reason why we are so mean to you is because you intimidate us. You work so hard. You maybe provide a different way to look at things than we. We, the Europeans, work to live, and the Americans live to work." As if it was like a good thing. I'm like, what kind of fucking bullshit is this?
Wow. Wow. It's always nice to watch stuff like that and be like, oh, okay, this is what you actually, this is how you think the world works. Thank you.
But
Thank you.
But you know what's interesting is that I have actually met people that think like that and act like her. It's not that far off from some real life individuals that I've come across.
Oh no, I think it's quite a common attitude. For me, it's like, it's amusing to think that a place that is basically like down the road for me, and so I always compare it to America, and I'm like, if you had to drive 4 hours to go to a place, like, you wouldn't think anything of it. If you lived in Texas and you wanted to go to another city, you'd be driving for 4 hours. And so in Europe, we have this weird crushed mentality where it's like, yeah, Paris is really, like, if I left the house, it would probably take me 4 hours to get there once we've gone through the tunnel and all that. And it's sort of, it demythologizes everything. It's just there. It's everything is just here. Like, I look out the window, Africa's over there, and if I go that way, there's Greece, and you know, it's like, it's just there. But if you're not from here, it's foreign and it's exotic and interesting,
dude.
And that's where the gaps create this kind of weird schism, I think.
I mean, I'm not saying that I'm not guilty of thinking Paris was exactly the caricature that I painted when I lived in the States. That's when I first came to Europe for the first time, and it was in Paris. And I projected my rose-tinted perspective onto the city, and it was fucking amazing to view the city like that. You know, I didn't see any terrible part of it because I was just living in this movie, and it was a great time. But it makes sense, though, because even now that I'm living here in Europe, it's already demythologized a lot of the neighboring countries now that I've been here for over a few years.
Yeah, I think, well, my whole thing with America, because that's the most foreign place that I go to regularly, is America. It's far more foreign than anywhere else on earth, as far as I can tell. And my instinct when I'm there is to say to Americans, is like, you really should go to Europe. Like, everybody here should go to Europe. You know what your lineage is. Like, go back and see what, or even if your ancestors aren't from Europe, you should go to Europe, because we all live in a version of Europe across the world. You know, your court system, your legal system, your medical system. It's European, rightly or wrongly, whether that's politically correct or not. That is the way the world works. So you should see it. You should see it firsthand.
Well, everyone should be able to experience going to the grocery store by walking. You know what I mean? Like,
that's
yeah. So, I mean, I suggested the title today because, I mean, speaking of Emily in Paris, her attitude is really similar to the common influencer.
Should I watch this thing, or is it just going to irritate me if I do that?
No, it's not even worth. I only watched a random commentary video on the series, so that's it.
Right.
But it reveals more about American culture than it does about the French.
These things always do, don't they? I mean, I'm still thinking about that line, you know, Emily, we were intimidated by you because we work so hard. I'm like, did the writers meet any French people? Like, that's just not, that sentence structure is not going to come out of the mouth of a French person.
Yo, no.
My God, are you crazy?
But it totally, what's
the
great,
the French sit there and go, we just really respect your work ethic. You know, it's very special.
But that is how Americans view the world usually. It's like all catered to them. And there was this one scene where she talks to a waiter and asks for the fucking steak to be medium. And then the waiter comes back and says, the chef says this is exactly the way you're supposed to eat. And then she throws a fit. Excuse me, this is the way I want it. And maybe you don't know how to make this, like shit like that. Anyways,
well, she was in Paris, right?
Yeah,
you let the chef, just whatever the chef says. Like, he's right, you're wrong. I think, like, and universally, globally, we all just have to accept that the French have won that. And so if you go to a good restaurant in Paris, you just let them do what they do. You don't go in there and be like, don't put the thing with the thing, and I like it. Like, no.
And then Emily starts complaining that the customer is always right, so she should have her way or something.
Well, that's quite funny. I mean, because that is something that I would see, like, Americans for sure getting that wrong in France, because that again, it's not true. Even though I have to be anti-French, I accept the French are right on that as well. Like, they do know better than we do. we have roast beef and Yorkshire pudding. They have French cuisine. They can tell me. Well, if I've been to Paris and been to restaurants, and I'll just say to the waiter, "What do you recommend?" And then sometimes they say, "How do you want this cooked?" And I'll be like, "Just what the chef says I'm going to eat is how I'm going to eat it." So that's it. We defer to the chef there.
And I'm sorry if you're getting your fucking steak medium. What are you doing? Just turn vegan, dude. You know, you don't even appreciate the meat. So
right.
God damn.
There you go. There's a little European snobbery that's crept in there. That's a good thing.
It's always been in there. I feel more validated now that I live here, and I can actually pretend like I know what I'm talking about. If you guys are wondering Richard's connection, I think there's a storm where he's at, so his video is a bit choppy, but the audio is okay. But yeah, man, I was speaking of the attitude with Emily. I've been thinking about this whole YouTuber influencer world, and because I've been trying to take a step back a lot more with this stuff, it's given me a different perspective of everything. And god damn, it's like, so it's gone way out of hand now. I mean, the thing is, it's like when you talk about influencers, it's not even just a small percentage of people, because everybody has their influencer moment nowadays. It's a lot more common than speaking about a celebrity like fucking Ryan Reynolds or Johnny Depp or whoever the hell. You know, that's like a very specific minority of people that have a specific set of problems. But I think the influencer thing is becoming way more democratized, meaning that a lot of people have an idea of at least an element of that world.
Yes. It's in a sense, I think that the world we live in now, even though it's very connected, we're kind of becoming like ignorant peasants again. Which is so strange, because we have the Library of Alexandria inside of our sweaty pockets, right at the fingertips, and we'll just use it to, I don't know, play Candy Crush or jerk off or whatever. And we've got like a peasanty. We're becoming sort of like bigoted, chauvinistic, narrow-minded, peasanty thing. Like, we're not worldly, we're not cosmopolitan anymore. It's actually caused us to do the opposite of what you would expect it to do. But possibly, like, it's a human instinct because of the overwhelming amount of data there. And even the wokeness thing, everybody's noticed I'm ranting about the woke thing at the moment. Even that has a weird, bigoted, chauvinistic, peasanty, towny. I mean towny rather than peasanty, actually.
Okay. I didn't feel like I knew what you meant by peasant-like, but
towny you get?
Pitchfork people.
Just
like village gossip type of person.
And also, like, I've never left my town. I'm comfortable here. I'm okay here. I'm not massively, let's say, I'm not massively racist, but I'm kind of like, I'm generally resistant to the new. I like things the way they are, and that's it. And I don't want new ideas, and I don't want new people. And there's a sort of the bigotry and the chauvinism, because I think the real meaning of chauvinism is like a sort of a hardcore patriotism. So you're like, I'm kind of proud of who I am. And there's a swagger to it. There's the swagger of the ignorant. And now I'm seeing, it's incredible to watch it. I'm like, because I'm looking at it. I'm looking at the woke, and I'm like, you remind me of the guys that used to beat me up when I was a kid. Like working class guys with shaved heads, or sub-working class, like benefits class drug dealers. And they would just, punch random people just for being out on the street. But that was their town, and that was their hood. And like, if they saw you and it was a Saturday night and they'd had a couple of drinks, they would just give you a hook, like as you were going to the bus stop, because maybe like I was wearing black and I looked like, I'd look like you when I was 19, and I'd get punched, and it was just part of life. You didn't even really you laughed about it. You just drink your cider and go, "Oh, I got fucking punched in the face." But their attitude, not that, well, the stance, that sort of swagger of like, "Oh, what do we have here? You ain't from around here, are you, boy?" And there's like the leering friends behind them going, "Yeah, yeah," and you feel that same towny, dumb attitude where people are ganging up on you so they can beat you up.
Yeah, I think you completely clarified it by just that one line. What do we have here? Like that summarizes the entire attitude.
Looks like you ain't so woke, boy. Did you
we can
proclaim your pronouns?
We can split it in both ways. So you have what do we have here and what do we have here?
Yeah. Right.
So
Yeah,
you got the mean girls at the high school table, and then you got the camouflage wearing dudes that are looking to beat up anybody for no reason, basically.
Just as an aside, one of my it's an indulgence because it's a podcast that I have. I always tell these side stories. I think I may have told it here before. I finally went to what I felt was a real diner in Texas. Real. I was out. It was outside of Dallas. It wasn't in the city. I went out. Good recommendations for the beef brisket. And I went to the diner, and it was the thing that I was looking for in America, because I've been to all the different American cities, and I'd not been into like a Quentin Tarantino diner. I wanted the propaganda experience, and I found it. And there was dudes in there. In the, what are the checked shirts called? What do you call them? Whatever they're called. The fucking checked shirts that all white. Plaid. They're all white American dudes. Wear baseball caps, pickup trucks outside, and there's a table of them. And I was like, oh, and I'm on my own. And there's like 7 or 8 big dudes with like beards, and they've got trucks outside, and they're wearing plaid. And I'm trying to tune into their accent, because a real Texan accent is quite hard to penetrate. The real drawl, and I was tuning in, and it took me about 5 minutes, and I was listening to them. These fuckers were discussing the vegan diets they were on. I finally came to a diner and found some trucker dudes, the kinds that would beat you up in the 80s movies, and they're like, I'm on a kale diet right now.
There's a TV series. I don't know. It's not Portlandia. It was on another show that basically made a skit about how hipster culture is reappropriated working class culture. So after a certain amount of time, dive bars get reappropriated. And there's a funny part in the skit where the bartender, she treats the hipsters like shit, like just cusses them out and whatever. And then somebody's like, yo, why are you talking to them like that? And she goes, they think it's part of like the aesthetic. So then the hipster people are like, yeah, see, isn't that cool? Like, she's just like so real and authentic, you know?
I've seen a variation of that same skit. It was Louis C.K.
It might have been Louis C.K.
Oh, okay. And then he says, I'm charging you $5 a bottle, and the locals, who was charging $2 a bottle, and the guy was like, why are you doing that? And he's like, because you're only here to drink in a New York dive bar to tell people you did. You're a douchebag. And the guy goes, so it's a douchebag tax? And he goes, yeah. And the guy goes, fair enough, and enjoys his drink and fucks off.
Yes. Yeah. That's kind of what it is. So we saw the same skit. It's from Louis C.K., I think. But that's pretty much it. A lot of hipster stuff is just working class things, and then they just have money, and they have an Instagram that posts about it.
So, but that's you're talking about hipsters appropriating working class things. This is the Zizekian inversion, which is working class dudes then embracing the hipster stuff and being like, this diner was known on the reviews for like beef and a slab of a bull's ass, and these dudes are eating, well, like a couple of them are discussing the salads they're on and the benefits of it.
Richard, they might have actually been hipsters. They've just evolved over time.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Okay.
So they're so camouflaged that you thought they were originally working class people. No, they're actually hipsters that are really disguised to be.
So I should have taken off their plaid shirts and looked for like a sailor tattoo or an anchor or a mermaid, and then I would have been like, you fucking frauds.
Yeah. But they also have reappropriated those working class tattoos too, like the whole thing.
Fuck.
So what's interesting is I came across a TikTok that basically talked about this phenomenon too, that a lot of high class trends, or let's just say fashion trends in general, start actually from working class people, but the rich reappropriate it too. Fuck that word appropriation, but it is. But like, for example, like blue jeans. Blue jeans were like the miners back in California, whatever the hell, and then now it's like a cool, trendy thing. Like you look at even Kanye's fashion line, it's like homeless clothing, but it's done in a fancy way.
This was the most direct example of this that I saw. I actually have personal ties to that. Was the relationship that's been ongoing in the United Kingdom for a long time between the nobility and the criminal class. So they're sub-working class, and they kind of love each other because they share similar values, and I think they enjoy the irony. And there was a club I would work on in Liverpool, and you would fuck it, I can name it. It was called the Mosquito, and that's what it was. It was like the crime bosses, the dudes that had the documentaries and the books written about them, rubbing shoulders with like B-list and C-list celebrities and people who were vaguely associated to noble bloodlines, who were horse jumping champions and whatever you like. And they were very comfortable sipping champagne and snorting coke together. There's like this mutual narcissism appreciation society going on, partly because of the irony and partly because they're both outside of society. So they're kind of they're kind of lonely. Everybody's a character. Everybody's a caricature, and it was fun. It was fun to watch it unfold. But without saying too much, I had a very close tie with a boy and a girl who were brother and sister, and one ended up marrying into sort of blue bloodline and working for a very famous fashion label. And her brother, who was my best friend in childhood, became a complete gangster. He just went into organized crime. Wow. No brother and sister. Yeah, and it just shows you he's from a good family, like a really like upper class family, but they did this divergent thing. But based on what you're saying, maybe it's not that divergent. Maybe it's actually ultimately it's the same thing.
I wonder why. I guess they're two extremes that alienate you from polite society, and they breed just eccentricity, and they can connect through eccentricity and like maybe like a type of street life experience too.
There's a whole series that I find enormously difficult to watch because it mirrored my experience of childhood too closely, but it's very good. It features Benedict Cumberbatch, and Hugo Weaving plays his father. It's a true story as well. And it really is an exploration in full over 4 1-hour-long episodes of exactly what we're talking about, how it plays out. One of the things is drug addicts. One of the first scenes we see is this. The series. Somebody in the comments help me if you're a Benedict Cumberbatch fan. The series is the name of the protagonist, and I can't remember for the life of me his name. But it's really, really good. But you see, for example, like where my friend was involved, where he would be with the fashion industry and gangsters, is drugs. So if you're really into drugs, like hard drugs, like heroin and crack, and at 3-4 o'clock in the morning, you're in a hotel in New York, it doesn't matter how rich you are, you want to get that rock. You can have a chauffeur, but he has to take you to a place that maybe isn't so nice. That's when Patrick Melrose. Thank you, Kelsey and JC. Based on a true story, Patrick Melrose. Yeah. If you had a rocky childhood, just a trigger warning. It's tough. There are scenes in there that are very tough to watch, but it's an excellent analysis and sort of an exposition on exactly this, and it shows you a granular level why. Because you look at it from the outside and you know, why would they be hanging around with each other? And then it shows you and you go, oh yeah, of course. What else can you do? There isn't anything else. But one of the the key scenes in the first series is the father, who is a malignant narcissistic psychopath, says the main goal of life, and this is where the gangster class and the nobility have the same end goal, is ennui, which is French for boredom. You should pleasure yourself so much in this life that you become numb to pleasure, and then you can perfectly posture as the remember heroin chic, when heroin chic was a thing? You can be skinny and drug addled and have no desires left. You're just in a perpetual state of ennui, because that's what the nobility were, and that's what everybody wanted to be, just like them.
So ennui is like a fancy indifference aesthetic.
Ennui, I think, has its own philosophy. I mean, just brutally, at my stupid A level of French, just means boredom, but it means a kind of a nihilism, a sort of an existential nihilism, which induces narcissistic psychopathy. Like, you believe in nothing. You cease to believe in pleasure. Hedonism in this system, in this hierarchy, if you still are pursuing pleasure, you're kind of a dope. It's not even cool to be a drug snorting, car crashing, brawling lunatic. No, that's at the initiate level. You move past that until you're just nothing. You just feel nothing. You want nothing.
Oh, great!
Just
Richard.
bored.
Huh? Turns out I'm on the path to ennui.
Yeah, there you go. Now you have a way of explaining your progress in life. You're seeking to be French nobility ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the first name helps with the category too. But yeah, I don't see myself chasing this type of pleasure so much, and I feel like I'm becoming number by the day to the idea of those types of pleasure. But yeah, influencers, are they?
Oh yeah, sorry,
ennui?
From ennui to drugs and influences. Could you tell the good people the image that you shared with me today? Could you describe it to them?
Which one?
The one that you showed me of the little cartoon people. That was the diversity cartoon, and we were told that we would have a platform that would allow us to express. There you go.
Start the new YouTube creator and artist survey now. Hi, Pierre XO. We're starting a creator and artist survey where you can voluntarily provide information about your race, ethnicity, gender, and sexual orientation for your channel.
I love it. Star sign, favorite flavored ice cream, favorite Spice Girl, all of the important things that are just so important about who you are as a person and really define. But I love that it starts with race and then goes to ethnicity, and I'm just like, what just happened there?
You see this face? This is the face of ennui.
This is it. Yeah. Well, maybe this is where we'll get to, where we'll just be so punch drunk with this lunacy that.
Dude, I can't.
This is where the snake eats its own tail.
Richard, I can't wait for you to fill out that survey and just have under Richard Grannon, straight, white, cisgendered, heterosexual male.
And they'll be like, just before we delete your account, why are you still here? You slipped through our net somehow. We're just wondering why, like how? How are you here?
Yeah, they'll put a little stamp right next to your check mark of like enemy, like right next to your username, dude.
A little circle of a dude in a hood, like this one.
God damn, man. Yeah, man. So
if they insist, I really have to say, had it been a few years ago, I wouldn't have chosen this to be the hill to die on. But because of everything that's happened up until now, any platform that insists on knowing my race, I think I'm going to have to say that's it. It's done. It's done.
Yeah, it's fucking weird, man. It's just like if this would have happened 6 years ago, it's like, why not? It's a little survey, a little census, whatever. But considering the context of how everything's been going in the last year, it doesn't feel like an innocent question to get some demographic data,
That's why I found the the little icon, the little Canva-based icon of people of different ethnicities and backgrounds, really sinister. Like at the gut level, I was like, that's sinister, because you're pretending you're doing something innocent and inclusive, and what you're doing is not innocent, nor is it inclusive. It's the opposite. This is now double speak, double think. It's purely Orwellian. We are the Ministry of Love. No, you are not the Ministry of Love. You're the Ministry of Torture.
Dude, okay. So speaking of this, I released a video just because I'm just like really over fucking social media. I'm over everything. I'm fucking on weed, dude. And so I'm just making some fucking whatever I want, pretty much. And I did this thing with talking to a therapist. He pulls out a gun. I pull out a gun on him. And you know what's funny? Can I say the joke that you initially said?
Sure.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the funny thing. I sent the video to Richard, and there's a scene where I'm pointing a gun at myself. And Richard sarcastically says, "What is this anti-Asian violence in this video that I'm gonna report you for, Pierre?" And I laughed, obviously, because it's funny. And then I got a comment today on that video saying that, is this an anti-Asian reference? Like, is this
but unironically? She said it unironically.
Hold on. What the fuck did they even say? They said anti-Asian hidden message.
Pierre points a gun at himself, and I was like, "Oh, I'm going to report you for anti-Asian violence because you pointed a gun at yourself." And this girl actually says it as like, "Oh, is this anti-Asian violence?"
She said anti-Asian hate, hidden message. So
yeah,
I'm subliminally saying, don't hurt Asian people. Fuck this. I'm done.
What I think you're saying is Asian people, because when you speak and you're Asian, Pierre, you're making a statement about all Asian people. I mean, I don't do YouTube videos without thinking like, I speak for all white people, all male, female, young, all the pinks. I'm all the pinks.
Yeah,
it's a statement. Everything is politicized. Everything is a statement now.
Yeah, and like people like will tag me in their Stop Asian Hate infographic, or they'll like ask me what my thoughts are, and I'm like, I don't know, just don't kill people. It's not good.
Just don't kill people. That's a great slogan for a political campaign. Just don't, but you have to say it that way. Like, just don't kill people.
Yeah, and it's like, to tie it back, this whole job, this influencer shit.
Yeah,
is this what we signed up for, man? You know, are we even influencers, first of all? And was this on the resume? You know, what's going on?
I had a little self-defense business, and I wanted to teach people about setting goals and being aligned with their values. That was it. And I just got sucked into this thing that has become more and more of like a slow boil culture war with every year that went past. And then it accelerated from the moment we met, like 2019 forward, every month that went past, then every week that went past. And now it's daily. You have to check in daily to be like, where are we up to with the culture war? What are we doing? You know, what's in the air right now? And what's in the air right now is I'm at great risk for having both my YouTube channels deleted for encouraging people to move towards sovereignty and away from propaganda.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got wiped. You got wiped, dude. You got fucking removed, dude. And like,
that's the reveal. Welcome to the Soviet nation.
If I want to make a silly video, it doesn't matter unless I talk about the rights of the extinct lobsters because of the weather clouds turning into potatoes, that I have to hire the fucking purple people to fight for the changing of the earth. Like, dude, what the fuck?
Well, this is pure trauma, you know. This is the effect of pure trauma. Whatever you force people through, they get addicted to it. So your age group of people is like 18 to 30?
Yeah.
I think that they're indoctrinated now to consume like they can't enjoy content without the filtering of issue and political bias.
Right.
Because
Right.
it just feels, it's like wanking with your other hand. You've never done it before. You can,
But
but you
you
have to think
won't
about
do it as
it.
well. You know, it doesn't feel the same.
But you cannot enjoy unconsciously this
You know,
moment.
dude, that's an interesting point I never thought about. So the indoctrination is so deep, and we have all retrained each other to
Yeah.
guilt ourselves that absorbing content that doesn't have a social political message means you're part of the problem.
Yes, I do. I do feel, and I should just footnote what you just said there. I feel like this is more of a problem for you than it is for me,
Yeah.
because they can't get me on that, and I don't know why. But I don't feel anything. Like if people say, "Oh, well, if you don't, Rich, you're part of the problem." My generation wasn't. I'm susceptible to being guilt tripped. I know that I'm susceptible to being guilted and shamed, but that to me is so far outside of my world that it just is so absurd that as a weapon, as an arrow, it doesn't stick. But I know that it does with you. I
Yeah.
know that it sticks with you, and I think it's a generational thing. Like the pressure that you're under. Maybe it's the milieu, maybe it's your audience. My audience just wouldn't pressure me like that. I don't
Yeah.
think, not once, I don't think I've ever seen a comment that said, Richard, you need to talk about this because your silence is violence, or if you
Yeah.
fail to talk about it, you're essentially endorsing it. I don't think anybody ever said that to me.
Dude, I mean, that's what I've been rethinking a lot. Like, I obviously have a core audience on the Pierre Extra. That's no problem there. I have no problem
Yeah.
there. But like, the current platform makes me not want to continue growing it. I don't even want to be discovered more. And it feels like a narrowing hallway. There's like an analogy that we constantly bring up here. The culture is going through a narrowing hallway. And I see a microcosm of that with my own platform, where it's like, I'm only allowed to have this particular audience
Mm.
that is in, not all, but most of them are indoctrinated in this way to absorb this type of content only.
Coaching Brain came up with a question and said, who's allowing you? Where does the permission come from?
Who permission, like, what do you mean?
Well,
Like,
you said you're only allowed to have a certain kind of audience.
because I've thought about it, and the whole influencer branding identity
Yeah.
is just, it's inevitable that I have kind of blockaded myself into this particular type of audience where I'm like, what am I gonna do? Have a fucking boxing MMA like type of audience, or like, I mean, I would have to make a different type of content for sure to attract a different audience. But I'm like, I don't know, man.
There's I have to concentrate. This is at the upper limits of what my brain can actually do. I just wonder if it relates to. Do you remember there was a conversation we ended up having, or that I ended up having? We watched The Social Dilemma, and then one of the women who was in The Social Dilemma contacted me. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Right. So she was like one of the managers of Google, and she reached out to me, and there was, so just that, so everybody is clued in, the back and forth was along these lines. If there aren't as many female influencers on YouTube as male influencers, it's YouTube's fault. And I was saying, I'll criticize YouTube all day, but I was saying that's not right. You're implying an agency. Well, because the argument that came to me was YouTube should be doing more to encourage female influencers. And I was like, well, should they? Like, that's an interesting point. I'm prepared to debate it. I'm not saying no or yes or whatever. I would like to see that balance as well. I'd love to see more female influencers. We all would, but not because they're females, because it would mean bring more voices to the table if they're producing good content.
There are tons. There are tons, though.
So my point was, there seemed to be the sense, and this woman is the same age as me, I think, but she had the way she presented a narrative. I studied feminism, we did discourse analysis. And when you did discourse analysis, you would look not just at the content of what was being said, but the implicit coordinates. And the implicit coordinates of the argument that was being brought to me as a man. And it was like, well, you work for YouTube. And I'm like, I fucking don't work for YouTube. Are you crazy? YouTube pays you. I'm like, they don't pay me. In the discourse, I saw this floating agency. There's this sense of a floating agency. Like, is it my fault? Is it YouTube's fault? Who has the agency? And the reason why I said this is at the upper limits of my intelligence is I just thought of this as you were talking. Isn't one of the problems that we're facing now, and the small level as influencers, and maybe more broadly as a culture, we seem to have lost a sense of where the agency is. And we talk about issues, and the agency kind of floats like a ghost on the ceiling. We can't seem to say who's responsible for this, but we insist somebody must be, and maybe nobody is. There's like a ghost in the machine effect, where there isn't. There's just us, but we're like paranoid delusionals. We think someone's doing it to us. There aren't enough female influencers. I mean, you make a good counterpoint, which is that there are plenty. Okay, but let's assume we agree there aren't enough. Who? Me? Like me? Because I have pee-pee? I should do something about that? YouTube's a platform. None of us work for YouTube. They're a third-party provider. So if we get paid through Google adverts, then it's because what's happening is product and service providers are paying YouTube. YouTube takes 70% and gives 30% to us if we have ads running. There's no work contract. We don't work for YouTube. There's no agency in that sense there. So as you were describing it there, it just made me think there's like a sense of a floating agency. Did any of that make sense, or was it garbled, sunburnt nonsense?
I'm sorry, it was pretty garbled, man. But I think I know what you're trying to get at. I think that a lot of the responsibility for certain outcomes is the fault of a bigger thing, not as opposed to people with their own agency to make things happen, right?
Yes, but I think what I'm trying to suggest is that because we're not clear about who has agency, it creates cognitive dissonance and stress. So when you said, what I heard you say was, I'm not allowed to. And that immediately made me think, by who? And that's like a floating agency thing. You said you can't have a boxing MMA channel. And then I thought, well, why not? Why can't you have a boxing MMA channel?
I'm looking at it from a more of a practical marketing perspective. You know what I mean? Where, like, for example, like my idea is to have a channel that maybe would cover social pseudo philosophical issues, you know, sprinkled in some pop culture, right? And I would expect for people to perhaps enjoy that element of the thing. Where what I see though is a majority of them just want a makeup tutorial.
Right.
You know, and if I were to do the MMA thing, I'm not even, first of all, that's a terrible example because I'm not that much into it anyways, but let's just go with that.
Yeah.
Looking like your boy here, people are going to be like, I don't want fucking Jeffree Star teaching me how to throw a left hook. You know what I mean? So it's more of just a practical marketing issue in that way.
There's a guy called Robin Black, and he has a super viral channel. He's not a fighter. He just analyzes other people's fights, and he has dyed black spiky hair, eyeliner, rockers jewelry, and black nail varnish. Robin Black. I don't know where he's from. I mean, the only reason why I'm challenging it is I'm like, my intuition is that you, I, and all of us, we're falling prey to a sense of feeling like we can and can't do stuff, and it might be partially illusory. I think that's probably what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. No, I get completely what you're saying, and it makes me think perhaps this, in my subjective case, it's more of, I feel like it's the algorithm's narrowing kaleidoscope in my initial vision, where, for example, I released that video yesterday and it's doing really bad compared to the other stuff. So in my own narrow kaleidoscope of the algorithm, it makes me think you you can't do it, Pierre. You can't just change your content. No one wants to see this. They just want to hear about Jeffree Star. They want to hear about Lil Nas X. They're not
if you're
like this new shit.
Yeah, so I have feedback on that as somebody who works in this. If we're rating everything purely by views,
Right.
and followers, it could get pretty dire pretty quickly. And of course, you know, we can't deny that that's important. But if you were just focused on that, you would get pretty stuck. And as to the boxing thing, one advantage you would have is if I look at boxing, like how to throw a left hook, and I see a bunch of guys like me, which I would like, and well, you've been watching boxing videos, you know, like the thumbnails are full of guys who look more like me than you. I would look at yours. I'd be like, what the fuck is this? What's this? Like right now with the purple background and the tattoos and stuff, I'd be like, really? I'm going to watch this guy fuck it up. I'm going to click on his video just to see him do this wrong so I can post a shitty comment and be mean to him. I would never do that. But, you know, maybe that would be the mindset of a YouTube user. You get your click-through rate going. Then you actually show them something that is actually good. You're going to get a number of clowns who abuse you because life. And then you're going to get a number of people who are like, no, man, he's actually knows how to throw a hook. This guy actually knows what the fuck he's doing. And that, you know what I'm saying? It could, yeah, it works despite what we think. Like, because we privately, ladies and gentlemen, we've spoken about me. Don't worry, Pierre, I won't get in trouble. Talking the social justice warrior issues and just going like, you can't, looking like that, you can't do it. But now I'm of the opposite opinion. I'm like, first of all, if I should be talking about what I want to talk about, if I think it's true, I should talk about it. And secondly, the fact that I look like this could actually help me rather than hinder me. There's going to be resistance. People are going to be like, shut the fuck up, white privilege, babbity babbity boo. But then other people would see through that and just go, no, there's a human being and he's telling the truth as he sees it. And that's it. Do you know what I mean? So what bothers me is that we're corralling ourselves.
Sure. But I think there's another element in the marketing view that would be barriers, but it's not the defining key point. Like if you were to talk about Black issues, you see, that's territory where it wouldn't exactly play in your favor.
But imagine the respect for my balls brought in a wheelbarrow, right? I'm just wheeling my nuts in.
Or your balls cut off into a wheelbarrow.
Hey everybody, I'm White, and I'm here to talk to you about exclusively Black issues that I've never lived and know very little about. So let me explain them back to you.
I think that's kind of how I'm feeling more, where I'm like built up this demographic of young women, you know, and like the stuff that I want to do isn't just makeup tutorials. Not saying that's only what they're into, but I get a lot of requests for that shit. So, but if I were to cover these other things, you know, it's in this territory that, and it's not even about young women. It's about young people, and then the state of the culture of everything having to be politicized and social. Like that's, even though I built an audience of that, I don't think you can really get away from it at this point unless you did some really, really niche shit.
Man, you sound like a dude who's imprisoned.
I really do feel like it, though.
I'm gonna release you. I'm gonna, and everybody gets to watch. Hey, dude, if we set up the OnlyFans of me releasing you, dude, the money. I mean, forget about it. You'd live for a year off that shit,
bro.
It wouldn't pay for the therapy you would need.
that sounds like prison talk right there, man. Fucking hell. Like here I am.
When she released me last night, surely it's my go.
Dude, here I am shadow boxing for hours on end, not leaving the house, and then you coming up, I'm gonna release you, boy.
I hear you had some problems. I'm here to release you, boy. Oh yeah.
But like I looked up at this. I found this Reddit video. You know these Reddit comments where they have this like text to speech robot like read all the comments. I don't know if you come across these videos.
Text to speech robot. No, I don't think so. No.
Yeah. So people were like, hey, friends of influencers, what were they like? And just like the worst stories of people just turning into the complete assholes,
Yeah.
attention seeking assholes. And then there were a lot of stories of like just shitty things behind the scenes that you don't even consider too, you know.
Yeah, well, you're more tuned into that than I am. You are more tuned into that than I am, and I think you're a little punch drunk. And I've said this to you before. I think you're a bit traumatized by this. Like, I think it's actually been. I've been traumatized by it. But like, if that is the case, there's things we can do about that. You go, look, this line of work. It's not a joke. I'm not being ironic. I'm not saying it for views. I'm actually fucking traumatized by this
Well,
experience. We go, oh, all right,
this is
time out. Like,
this
it's
is
not worth it.
this is kind of what I wanted to breach in terms of this stream, because this is something that we've kind of glazed over, but I think it's really an interesting subject that you don't really get to hear about. And like, what are your experiences with this? And do you think it is traumatizing? And how serious do you think this whole
100%.
issue is?
I could. Well, I'm on one tonight. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with me, but I've got verbal diarrhea. I haven't spoken to anybody for a couple of days. It's probably that.
Okay.
So I won't tell my stories. But all the way back in 2006, like, you want to talk narcissistic abuse, gang stalking, like people hacking my emails. They got me in the national press in the UK. They did everything they could to take like a red top. It's called The Sun. And they had my name in The Sun. I had interviews from The Sun. They really fucked me, mate. They really, really fucked me. I had no negative intentions whatsoever. I just wanted to teach people how to defend themselves. And this was done purely out of jealousy. So trauma from internet-based drama, of course. I mean, the internet is the world now. Drama's drama.
Yeah.
Trauma is trauma. If you are speaking sincerely and you open your heart and you're vulnerable and somebody takes a shit in your heart, it's hard to get over, like, of course. So, you're not doing videos on like how to paint a deck chair, how to fix an iPhone. It's you're putting you there, which is good, but it's a brave choice. And I'm not I can't tell you, I've never told you what to do, but right now you've got two choices. You either don't do that or you're hard as fuck. And I've said this before. I've said it on Tentacle Quest On before. I'm really sensitive, but I don't match you for sensitivity in this area. And I can get shitty comments and then just fart and fall asleep. I forget.
Yeah.
Even remember. Good night, everybody.
What's interesting though, like when I first got into this, I blew up due to negativity, but I was totally okay with all of it. Like I could fart and fall asleep. I can pee pee too. I can fart and pee pee simultaneously and not care about negative comments. I used to pee on my phone. You know what I mean? But like as of recently, especially the last year or so, my tolerance for this negativity on the internet has gotten way more prominent, and I don't know where that came from.
Because let's do therapy in public, Pierre. You have a trigger around unfairness. And what's happening right now is broad scale injustice in the name of justice. It's if you care about fairness, obviously everybody cares about fairness. If you have a trigger around injustice, this is a fucking hard time to live through. This is tough. Yeah. We have to watch people not just get away with it, but being applauded for the most disgusting, disgraceful, hateful, racist, divisive nonsense. And every institution, politics, corporations, Coke, BMW, Nike, banks, even governments, even this are like this. Well done. Well done. Keep doing that thing that you're doing that is ruining the world and making people hate each other. Keep going, kids. That's hard, man. That's really hard. If you care about people, you care about justice, it's a trigger for you. It's tough. And not only that, you went and shoved yourself in front of the tank in Tiananmen Square. I'm like, here I am. Swag. Where I was like stood there going, maybe hit the sidelines, maybe just hang out in the sniper hatch with me for a while, and let's just see how it goes. But that isn't your style. You put on a red jacket, got some cornrows, and jumped in the middle of the brawl. I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm not joining you. I'm here if you need me.
I gotta be sent back home, man. You know what I mean? Like, I can't be on the field for any longer. My legs are falling out, like running laps. Yeah, yeah, and I know just this hyper politicization, hyper polarization thing, and it just seems so hard to escape now. And it's another wall of the imprisonment where I'm trying my best to maybe just enjoy what's left on the internet and my daily life, but god damn, it's impossible to look away from.
I just thought of another thing. There's a big difference between me and you, and I think it makes things hellish for you. I don't like the internet that much. I really like the sea. I can see the sea right now, and it makes me happy. I can hear birds singing. And to be in the sun and be outside is the better thing for me. You really like that world, and they've poisoned it. It's poisoned. I can drop it. It's fine.
Dude,
but you can't.
That's how I was about to take a shower, and that thought, like the phrase "they poisoned the well" came to mind, and that's how I feel. Where this brilliant tool of technology and the internet that I've had an affinity for since I was 3 years old. I used a computer since I was 3, and just to see it be just taken over by the spider robots in the Matrix and just obliterated with pee-pee poison, it just it's so disappointing. Like fucking hell.
Yeah. So we would say, in a coaching context, we would have to, you'd have to sort of, like Jung said, you're always trying to move towards truth, and some truths are uncomfortable. So on this one, I would be saying, well, look, we'd have to call that an attachment. We'd have to say you're actually attached to the internet, and you kind of love it. You love technology. You love the internet. You love the community. You love what it could be. And you're seeing that ruined. So it's all very well me saying I'm not as sensitive about it. Maybe it's just a case of I'm not that attached to it. In fact, I've always been deeply suspicious of it. And I don't believe if it disappeared, the world would be a worse place. I actually think it would be a better place.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's a point that's going to be more and more difficult to argue against. I mean, even me, I'm having to shift my entire worldview because of it.
Being here, I'm having so many good real world interactions and online. It's just people just are like, fuck you. They don't speak to you unless they want to tell you to go fuck yourself in the eye of your soul and die. They don't talk. They're just like, fuck everything you are, ever were, and ever could be. And I'm like, I'm so battered by that as a fairly robust person that I'm like having normal interactions with people here in the village of Ibiza. And I'm like, why is everybody so friendly and cooperative and kind? They're not particularly like, it's not like they're super focused on me and jumping down my throat, but nobody's horrible, because the baseline for communication there is so corrupted. It's so fucking combative. So coming back to the real world is a pleasure.
Yeah, and I mean, just a few days ago, I found my unicycle buddy. I haven't seen him in a year, and it was like the best time I've had all year. Just like rolling around this unicycle, drinking beers, didn't bring up anything serious. Just fucked around and made jokes all day, and it was a fucking amazing time, And I'm like, it's that simple, It was that simple. I don't need some existential fucking retrajectory something. I just doing that is okay, but it's like harder than ever to do that now.
Are you aware? You must be, of that really irritating song that's viral on TikTok called Sugar Crash?
I mean, you'd have to just hum it, but I mean, I don't know.
I am not singing it to you because it's done in the voice of like a 6-year-old, and it's robotic. It's like auto-tuned, so it's even more shrill and chipmunk-like. But it's basically somebody complaining that they're on a sugar crash and they haven't taken their meds today and they're depressed. And it's trending now. And I find that interesting. And maybe I'm being too Freudian and seeing stuff where there isn't anything, or this is an expression of the collective unconscious. Maybe it's a coincidence, but it's trending now. And there is a sense, I think, in which we've been on, it's kind of like cocaine or sherbet or sugar, and it's been this peak, and it's crashing now because it's not real. We want it fast. We want it easy. Like, you want to drop a video that does 100,000 views in 4 days. Why? Well, because the algorithms are, you're connected with the matrix, and the algorithms are training you. This is what YouTube does now. It's like an animal training machine. It's Pavlovian. It trains you to think that that's your baseline. Where really, if you've genuinely connected with 6 strangers online and made them smile, I know it sounds a little corny, but that's 6 people. That's like, but if it has to be 60,000, we're sugar addicts at that point. We're drug addicts at that point.
No, that's a good point. Yeah, I think it just becomes digits on a screen after a while, and if that's all you see, you just become neurotic, and you just, it doesn't get a. What's interesting is that actually having a private Instagram has made me kind of, let's just say, humanize the people that would follow. You have a private Instagram too, right?
I had to switch it off because they wouldn't let me add any more people. 30 a day was, but yes, I will make it private.
Yeah. So what's interesting is now that I get to see, I have to kind of vouch like people's profiles and just make sure it's not some weird anonymous account with nothing there, like, but what it has shown me is that instead of a number of 137, it's, you look at a profile and you see a person's face there. And then they even though it's an artifice of who they really are and what they post on their Instagram, it humanizes each account into a person as opposed to just one full number.
Yeah.
And it brings up an inkling, like a tiny bit of more humanity to the social media world to see that.
Yes, there's an extra dimensionality to that, and I think what's happening is that there is a lack of genuine connection for you, and you're starving from that, and it could even be affecting you hormonally, because it does. If you're not connecting with people, if you're not around people, there are hormones that you just stop producing, and suppression at the end of the day repression becomes the same effect net as depression. Suppression, repression is depression. It's coming from a different place, but you still feel just as fucking depressed because you're not making happy. There's no joyous hormones being produced because your body's like, well, fuck it. What would I do that for? I'm not connecting with people. I only make those hormones when I connect with people.
Yeah, and the moment that you do now in this setting, it just feels a lot better. But like, and on the other hand, though, like, I ran into someone that I haven't spoken to in a while, and they're just like a complete religious, like, convert now, and the only thing they could talk about is their new religion. And like, I think we've known other people that would just only talk about their other political things, and like, people just get lost, like they're lost, like something like disappeared.
At this point, I think I would rather see people jump into the mass psychosis of religion than political correctness and wokeism.
I mean, that's fine. I don't have a problem with whoever that finds a religion, but it's another thing that I just want to have some fart jokes with somebody. I just want to have like some a drink and just laugh about dumb shit. Like, I realized after being around the unicycle and being around the person that was a new religious, not extremist, wrong word, but convert. I find my religion in a really good connection with somebody that doesn't have any relation to anything fucking woo up there.
Yeah, that's the whenever you say that, I'm always reminded of Patrice O'Neill just saying, like, men just need to get together sometimes and just be silly.
Yeah, that's a religious experience, man.
We have to argue about whether Bruce Lee in his prime could beat Mike Tyson
while
farting. It's very, these are important. These are important debates.
I don't know if it's just a male thing, but I guess speaking as two dudes, ruminating over a nihilistic approaches to reality by yourself for 3 days on end, in comparison to fart jokes and talking about Bruce Lee or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
I found a more of a religious release doing the farting with Bruce Lee than I ever did learning about like how everything is fucking deconstructed or whatever, you know?
Yes, and sometimes, you know, mate, I think these things are like they're cognitive styles. Like I've always been very critical of the idea of personality per se and as such, but I've never denied that there's differences between people, and people have characters and natures. I tried to blend the word character and nature, and you can't do that. They have characters and they have natures, and you know, being pushed inward and into your head. I quite like that. I enjoy it for selective blocks of time, and you just might not. It just might not, and that's fine. That's part of growing up. That's also part of like the experience of learning who you are and becoming comfortable with yourself as though you were a partner, and just being like, okay, there's certain things I can't do, and I can only learn what they are by fucking up and doing the wrong things. You know, like
Yeah.
I'll never try and live in London again. Tried it 4 times. Definitely isn't for fucking me. But I only know that through going through the process of doing it. So I do think there's a little bit of that there where, you know, you still got to find your feet in the world as a human, as a man, as a person, and I think this is part of that as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I don't know, just I mean, when you feel like you're absolved, or let's just say you, you live in a headspace that feels neglected of fun and
Yeah,
just human connection at a ground level, not
yeah,
I believe that, turtles should have rights too. Oh, me too. Turtles should have
yeah,
rights. Therefore, we're friends now. Like, when you feel like you're living in this ecosystem that just doesn't have any just room for nonsense or fun at all,
yes,
the the novelty and the value of that laugh of
yeah,
that doesn't have any ideological association is just like it's a religious golden fucking
yeah.
coin that you find in the midst of branches,
Yes, and I do think again, I think that's a generational thing. I think what's being done uh, to your generation and the people younger than you is enormously cruel. Who was it? Not you that told me that there was a study done about millennials and Gen Zs talking to each other, and that there was a study done. The average communication was 3 words long, and 90% of the time, one of them was an emoji. Was it you that told
That's
me that?
that's so funny because not only do I do it because 'cause I'm a terrible person, but,
Right?
I never watch his videos, sorry, dude, but I randomly came across Sam Vaknin's video, and he says that in
Yeah.
the video, so
Oh, maybe. Oh, that's where I saw it. Thank you.
okay.
God, fucking
Yeah,
brain. I got sunburned yesterday. My brain's not been working since. I
nice.
left my car. I was telling Pope this last night. I parked my car illegally outside a tennis club here, where all the police play. And then I dumped all my credit cards and debit cards in the car, and woke up like a stoner the next day, going, "Oh, where's my cards? Where's my car?" Ugh, I can't do
Nice,
anything.
nice.
Fucking so stupid. So yeah, it was Sam. It was Sam Vaknin in a recent video where he's talking about the generational gaps, and yes, he relays that statistic. Um, that's that's really bad, man. Like that's really. I'm not. It's not accusatory what I'm saying. I'm not like, oh fuck, these kids are fucked up. But when you are there, if that's what is happening, that's really, really bad. That's hellish. That's hell on earth. That sucks.
I mean, as I was listening, it's a good video, by the way. Good job, Sam Vaknin. I watched, I think most of that, pretty much all of it,
Mm,
and it's nice to have an outside perspective of my current generation, even though through a fairly dark lens. It's solidifying or validating this experience that I feel like that I inevitably have to be a part of. This
yeah.
this generation, it's like the party's ending, man. It's not it doesn't have any legs, man. This type of connection that we're trying to not foster is gonna it's that's why everyone got fucking proms now.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think so. I think it's a lack of authentic connection that, and then, well, Well, you shared it with me today, and I shared it with some people, and I got feedback from my Gen X followers. What's her name on Instagram? The Real Psychologist or Real Psychology?
Yeah, I was gonna post it on my Instagram, but then I realized it doesn't fucking matter, so then I didn't.
Oh wow! Then I realized we're all dust.
But dude, this is okay. Not to just tie it, but we'll go to the post right after I say this. But
Sure.
I feel like this is the hole that I kind of dug for myself, where I know that a good majority of who might follow me do not agree with that, and by me posting it, it's not going to do anything. You know, it's
No, you'll provoke people. So there's
I don't want to provoke people. You know.
No, I understand. There's a lady on Instagram. I suspect she's around your age, maybe a couple of years younger, called Actual Psychology, and she is debunking a lot of the social media mythology around mental health. Is her name on Instagram Actual Psychology?
Yeah,
Something
yeah.
like that. Yeah.
While you explain that, I'm gonna go pee real quick.
Okay, so I think what's happening with millennials and Gen Z is there's a conflation now between genuine mental health issues and just a way of being. So you'll have a person like me who is authentically introverted. Like I need to be on my own the majority of the time to feel sane. Otherwise, I'm exhausted and I don't function. I like people, love being around people, love interacting with people for small selected periods of time, and then it needs to end and there should be silence. And what's happening is this generation through social media is so desperate for identity that it's appropriating mental health diagnoses that are faulty to begin with. Many of them are so flawed and are based on such bad pseudoscience that they're bordering on charlatanism. But they acquire them both as an identity and as a virtue and as a sign of oppression. So they'll be like, well, I'm a schizoid, borderline, obsessive, compulsive, bibbledy-bar, and therefore, and it's gone hand in glove, like social media culture, Gen Z, millennial culture, and this sort of mental health light. And it's got to the point, there's videos on YouTube of people in their early 20s attacking me, saying things like, Richard Grannon uses shaming language about my personality disorder. And I'm there going, okay, what I'm actually doing is I'm accurately reflecting what the DSM and the clinical literature says about your personality disorder. And the language they use, well, it's kind of shaming to the extent that it's negative, but they're not giving you praise. They're telling you the way in which your personality is disordered. So if you're going to interpret all negative feedback as shame, all psychiatric language is shame-inducing and shameful. I mean, and this then leads back around to the whole woke phenomena. We're moving into a period because of this sort of tidal flow that is anti-authoritarian, anti-elite, and anti-intellectual, where we start to pull at the fabric of everything and start pulling language apart. If you're going to describe a disorder, it's going to be used in negative language, and it might induce feelings of shame in you. In fact, it probably will. Welcome to psychiatric disorder diagnoses. That's the name of the game, kids. Don't be mad at me. Don't shoot the messenger. That's just the way it works. So this mental health light that's been appropriated, 9 times out of 10, I was appalled to find that actually when I questioned people on it, and I'd say to them, where did you get your clinical diagnosis from? Not 9 times out of 10, that's an exaggeration, but I would say 70 to 80% of the time, they'd self-diagnosed. They'd be like, I'm bipolar.
Yeah.
Well, how many doctors told you about? No, I know I am. I'm ADHD. How do you know? My mum told me. I'm like, what the fuck? And you just accept that? You just roll with that. You don't question it.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. So I'm gonna just read a few of them. I won't read all of it, obviously, but like for example, the themes they call it insta therapy because that's what
Right.
it is now. Self-analysis, aka rumination, self-diagnosis, negative thoughts, obviously, no support in treatment plan. And one of the things that I think is good to note is one of them says, encouraging people to introspect and look for negative thought patterns in themselves increases the propensity for those thoughts to manifest. which is it's a self-fulfilling prophecy sort of a thing.
Absolutely, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And she also criticizes the trend to tell people with mental health issues to meditate.
Yeah.
And for a while there, I thought I was the only person saying, like, well, the way I would phrase it is like this: if you have CPTSD and you meditate, it could make you significantly worse. But apparently, the study that she cited from 2019 said that it makes all mental health issues, sorry, not all, something like, I think it was 80% of people found their symptoms worsened if they were just told meditate. I mean, we're looking, there are these low resolution analyses of problems, which of course foster low resolution solutions.
Yes. And here's one that I'd like. If we continually self-analyze our thoughts over and over without support, this is ruminating, and it's actually more harmful for mental health. Rumination is bad for you.
Yeah, no, there isn't a psychologist alive who would be like, go home, think about all the shit things, do it on your own, and just sit there and focus on all of the bad for a couple of hours. Like, there's no positive outcome there. People are asking in the chat if we could give her her IG so they can add her.
Actual full psychology, or look at actual psychology, or look at Richard's Instagram. I think he posted this. I would post it, but dude, people, there's that saying, preaching to the choir. You ever try preaching to the fucking gardener?
The not choir?
Yeah, that's what my whole platform was based on, you know? Yeah. And like, I don't know which one is worse at this point, because there are a lot of things that I kind of do want to say, or things that I have a certain perspective on, but this being that like, this is subversive in the culture of today, you know?
But well, maybe it's my stupid optimism at work here. I have a suspicion that if you came out, because you can do this, man, this is a gift, I can't fucking do it, and you're like, look, you know, when you dodge your laser beams and you're like, we need to have a conversation about mental health. I know you tried the ADHD one and they fucking sawed your hands and legs off. But if you approached it again, you know, regroup, re-strategize, approach it again and say, look, we need to have this conversation. It's no good for you guys and girls to be running around diagnosing yourselves and diagnosing each other and absorbing this as some sort of an identity, like you're the member of a social club. Because the stuff that was criticizing me, I was looking at the comments and I'm like, they sort of like, they go, hi, I am an INFNJ, BPD, Aries, Zigadabor for Zaganamore. And the other one goes, well, hello, I'm an ENTP, Aquarius, and it's, I was like, what are you? Yeah, that's your ENTP, Aquarius. I was like, it's like ants, like they go da-da-da-da, and they exchange information. You're in the club. Okay, good. Now we're in. And I'm like, that's not good. You shouldn't be proud of the ways in which you are not functioning. I'm not telling you to be ashamed. I'm not shame daddy, like you should feel, but don't be proud of what's wrong. Seek to heal, seek to grow, seek to move past it. But my suspicion, I'm not going to say suspicion, I'm not going to bullshit people here. I know full well that it's an oppression grab. It's like, I need something that oppresses me and I need an identity. And yes, you do see people from different certain stratas of society and certain classes tend to do this more, and they tend to be people who were raised wealthy. There's a tendency, there's a curve. If you graft it, I'm seeing a lot of people from a certain social background, certain amount of education, and they talk this way. It's not good, folks. It's not good. Like, if you're bipolar, that's not something to be like, yeah, I'm fucking, yeah. No, that's like, we need to work on that. You want to not be bipolar. You want to work toward being less bipolar, I would think. If you even accept bipolar as a diagnosis, which perhaps I don't.
Hop on my channel and try saying 5% of what you said and see what happens, man.
Well, then, okay, which is really interesting. Let's assume that your assumption is 100% correct. Where are we then? If people are going to angrily and aggressively defend their identity, we're in a bad place.
That's exactly where my crises is planted,
Okay.
because it's not as much as I keep bringing it on about me. I'm trying to reflect it on into the bigger span of things,
No,
because
no. Yeah, we everybody can see that you're struggling, mate. Everybody
yeah,
can see that
it's
you're a happy dude, and they fucking got you. And we're all like, hmm. Everybody in the chat is hoping I can say something that's going to pull you out of this.
yeah, but it just is representative of that bigger thing that you were just about to explain. It's you and I both are pretty debative people, master debaters, as you might.
Masturbatory, absolutely, yeah, yeah,
Yes. And I think one of the things that tickle us is to find oppositional points. We love like kind of
yeah,
arguing with ourselves and then bringing
yeah.
out those opposing points outward. And I feel like, I go about my channel in one way, so do you. But at this point, I'm realizing that I'm coming at my own content to talk to an audience from an oppositional standpoint and
Yeah.
hopes to find an agreement. But I, who am I to expect that agreement in the first place? And it brings out where everyone's at if they're not willing to do that. It's my fucking hopeful, like naive idea that could be a thing. And I'm like, maybe I just shouldn't go about these things so oppositionally in the first place.
Well,
Not do it.
briefly had a chat with Potent last night, and he was saying how contrarian he was, and I was like, oh, I've always been quite contrarian, and maybe the point of, from the Nietzschean point of view, some of us are here in the tribe, we're all in this tribe together, but some of us, we need to be the contrarians, and some of you need to conform, and you need us, and we're going to be contrarian with everything because that's in the DNA. We're just contrarian fuckers, and the jester archetype, the shaman archetype, the weird healer who doesn't live in the tribe, he lives in the woods, or she lived, or the witch who lives away. And they're kind of frightening, but they're the ones who you go to get healed, and the healing could be painful. You need that contrarian element. The Nietzschean part of that is, if everybody is moving in this direction, Nietzsche said, I do not drink from your cistern because I don't want to be like you. If I drink from the same well as you, we'll all be saying the same stuff. And how do you move away? But, and I hope, because we have a lot of contrarians here, people come to Tentacle Quest on because they're
Right.
contrarians themselves.
Right.
It is, let me warn everyone, a very fucking hard path because it grinds against your DNA. It grinds against your evolutionary drive to fit in, because doing not what the tribe is doing is life-threatening. It isn't literally life-threatening now, but it was. You do what others do. And if you swim upstream, because Potent was saying he had a dream where he was swimming upstream and everybody was floating down the stream going, this is cool. And he's fighting to go up. And I'm like, yeah, that's it. If you're a contrarian, you fight up. You fight against the stream, because that's where we can find where we have our place in the tribe, where we're useful. We find the bits and pieces that the detritus and the flotsam and jetsam that other people missed. And that's what you're doing. But it's a hard path, particularly now, particularly in these times that we're living through. And you can expect your system to fight it because of the biological and genetic risk that it represents evolutionarily.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I think perhaps at the beginning, it was a bit more, that type of discourse was just a bit more allowed, I guess. And
Yeah.
I can just see it's become more and more solidified brick wall, going into these discussions that way. Where before,
Oh my
I felt
God.
like maybe it was going somewhere.
Okay, so we've missed a chunk here. If everybody goes back to, there's a film from 1992 called Pump Up the Volume with Christian Slater. I've mentioned it here before. He says it's one of the best films he ever made. He plays a high school loner who at night turns into another character called Happy Harry Hardon, who runs a private radio station where he pretends to jerk off and then he plays music. It's pure, unadulterated Gen X mind porn. Okay. It's great. I think I watched it like 20 times when I was a kid, and I'm so happy I get to be Happy Harry Hard on here today. and fulfill my Christian Slater dreams. He was my first love, I think, Christian Slater. And I think, but at that time, that was absolutely celebrated. That was the time of Bill Hicks, of Dennis Leary, of Kurt Cobain, of Rage Against the Machine.
There we go. I see where you're going. Keep going.
You see where I'm going? So Contrarians was cool. The horror now is only the conformists are cool. The Contrarians are no longer cool. You must be a conformist now. How do you conform? Well, you do what Lil Nas X has done, which is about as brave as everything that Lady Gaga did, which is about as brave as everything that Madonna did. And it's like, oh my God, it's so shocking. Is it? Aren't they just following the same fucking formula? This is conformity presenting as rebellion. So true rebellion is questioning what everybody else is doing. But the trick that's been played on your generation is the generational stutter that's happening, where they have been tricked by, I know I'm going to sound like a right-wing conspiracy theorist, but I genuinely believe this. Big corporations, big pharma, big government, that what they are doing is cool, but it's actually the agenda of conformity that's coming from on high. It's coming from the powers that be, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, dude, you just lit a flame in me as you were describing this generation. Because like the people that I fucking looked up to were people like, for example, like you said, Bill Hicks, George Carlin, Henry Rollins, fucking Billy Corgan, and fucking you got even. But when in this decade you had Prince and Michael Jackson and Bowie, which at the time was actual rebellion, because that was not gender fluidity in 2020. That was like some shit you can get murdered over at that time period too.
Yes. Yeah. It was a totally just wearing like one glove, the one white glove and the jacket with the zippers. That was brave. Never mind everything else the dude was doing.
Michael Jackson was the first black artist on MTV. Like that's historic. He was the first one aired on MTV that was black. That's rebellion, man.
And that was because MTV was originally just pure rock, right?
Yeah. And but you know, the people that I looked up to and the content that I absorb, and I think the whole reason why there's so many Gen Xers that follow me, if anything, more Gen X follows me than maybe younger generations. But there was just this spirit of fuck you and fuck everything. Everything's fucking wrong, and that isn't allowed anymore.
Gen X would vibe with your authentic values and less. So there's where you have to be two people in order to do your job and make money. You have to be two people. So Gen X would you kind of have that's how we can spend time with each other, is you have a Gen X worldview, really. Right. But you do, I think it's because of, obviously you can't escape your generation, but the nature of your work keeps pulling you back into this garbage.
Sure.
And it feeds like a sort of a Gen Z neurosis. So you're a Gen Xer with a Gen Z neurosis. No wonder you're fucking depressed.
I have to explore Gen Z neurosis and like put the costume of it. Know, it's so uncomfortable, this fucking suit of like God knows what anti-conformist conformity like nonsense, you know. But like I look at older art and music and film, like there was that one 90s Breakfast Club movie that was like in a record store. I forgot what it's called. It was in a record store. It was like 5 like weirdos, like some outcasts, and like they just get together and they'd have like a little breakfast, some Tower Records or some shit. I don't remember.
Okay.
But somebody will name it in the chat. But like I look at how Rollins talks on stage. I look at how Carlin and fucking Hicks talks on stage. And then you even have like the absurdist shit with like Jim Carrey. You know what I mean? And that's so fucking extra and outlandish, but it comes from a place that just doesn't exist. Empire Records, thanks guys. That place just doesn't exist in the current ecosystem. You can't explore that part, you know?
I would feed back the linguistic construct that you used earlier that bothered me, was you said it's not allowed. It's not allowed. And I'm like, oh shit, that's that really concerns me, because it immediately makes you go, who's doing this? And if we've managed to internalize the prison guards, we've really, like, life is so much easier for the people who would want to control us, because we're holding them inside. They would never,
Right.
they don't even have to bother gassing us because
You're
it's
right.
internalized.
It's not the right language choice. I don't know. I definitely should rethink that. But for
No,
example,
I think it is the right one. I think, like, what you're, I think you're talking about the Overton window. There is a range of things you can say where people be like, that's okay, or I don't like it, or whatever, and you step, just your toenail goes outside of it, and people are going fucking berserk. That's allowed. Like the proper phraseology is, this is permitted, this is not permitted.
right, right, and obviously, it's not about views only. Of course, it's not about money only. But as I shift the content and seeing the difference in the response, it just
Mm,
is another nail that tells me, like, it's not the time. This isn't what we're looking for.
right, right. I think I would say that, like, in order to break whatever cycle this is, you really should look at taking a break from it and just letting your brain cool, and maybe try and unplug from the
Yeah.
feedback for a little bit. The audience that you are trying to please, I mean, I wouldn't want that job. I really wouldn't want that. And do you know how I would do it? I would go full hardcore nihilism, and I'd be like, I'm going to get a ratio of likes to dislikes of about 50% here, which is preposterously low on YouTube. I just accept it, and I'll be like, there is. I mean, I'm seeing it on what do you call it, on TikTok. There are Gen Zers who are aware of this. They're perfectly switched on, and they're sick of it as well. You could talk to them, but you're not going to get big numbers. Like, the big numbers days are over, and the core audience that you've had will be like, oh, I used to love him. I'm so disappointed now. He said this about my ADHD, and I'm furious.
Dude, like, just to think, just watch old Carlin stand up and be like, God damn, do I just want to do that? You know?
Here's a frightening thing. Um, every piece of stand up that I've listened to in the last 2 weeks that is older than 5 years old, I'm thinking, ooh, fucking hell, that's, ooh, shit, that's, ooh. I'm getting sensitive now. I'm trained.
Yeah.
I'm a good little trained dog in this
Yeah.
circus. Uh, Ricky Gervais's third special, I think it's called Humanity. You listen to that, and I'm like, damn, you've got some balls. But you're listening to it with today's ears, where you
Yes.
can't, like, you're not, like you said, you're not allowed to joke about that. You're not allowed to say that. It's weird. Louis C.K. from 2015 is like, ooh, shit, it feels way stronger now than it did. Obviously, it was edgy, but now it's like, fuck, it makes you sit up and go, like that. Did he really just fucking say that? It's really strong now by comparison, because we're being fed weak stuff all the time.
Where do you why and where do you think this shift started from what I see in Gen X content, for example, like Fight Club, to the people I named earlier, to
Mm,
this uh abrasive left hook of nihilistic raw truth
mm,
that was rebellious and appreciated at the time, to a point where, if it doesn't, for example, if I were to go with that approach, not even talking about like social loaded topics, but just be like, nothing fucking matters, this is how it is, that type of like
mm.
attitude to things, it just wouldn't be appreciated the same way it would have in the 90s. Like, why and where do you think that shift happened to that new mindset or whatever?
I'm in a sense, I'm quite cynical these days, in that I see, well, the way I would say it is like this. I think one of our big blind spots in the collective shadow of humanity that we're in right now is money. And I think economics plays way,
Oh
way
yeah, yeah,
more than we think. And I think the
okay,
2008 crisis, it didn't, in the same way that World War II didn't end in 1945, it didn't end really until the Berlin Wall came down in 1989, and they kicked the Soviets out in 1988 in Prague. So the 2008 crisis didn't stop in 2009. It slowly unfolded and did huge untold damage that altered the reality of money globally, permanently, over a 7 or 8 year period. And nobody was really talking about it, but in the background, we all knew there was less on the table. Like it is harder to make money now, no doubt. Like I was a doorman, and I was doing little bits and pieces of work in schools. I hadn't gone full time in the schools yet, and I had like fucking 4 mortgages going. My credit was, I'm not going to say what my credit was here, but the credit I was offered in the 2000s was absurd for the money I was on. So there was a lot more credit. There was a lot more free money, not free money, but there was money moving freely. I should say it wasn't free money, but money was moving freely. Easier to set up a business, easier to get trust from people, easier to get people to buy. Populations kept growing. The student population has grown. The student population is fucking exploding. And I'll say it. It won't make me popular, but I'll fucking say it. Idiots with degrees. And I mean people who I wouldn't trust to drive a car have degrees now because it's a business. And the business is, even if you're not qualified, we'll get you through this degree and we'll take your money off you. We'll get you into debt with the student loans company. Not only will we give you the degree, we'll pass you so that we can be ranked highly on the national boards. This is how it works in the UK. I'm sure it works this way in America and Canada. And so we pass people at higher grades than we should so that we look good. We go like, oh, 20% who did English and history at Bibbidi Babble College got, you know, like a first or above. You know what I'm saying? It became a scam. And so you had less money on the table, an explosion of students, massive amounts of propagandizing and brainwashing of the students, which the universities have been guilty of since the fucking 60s. But you didn't have the numbers and you didn't have the resentment. There's huge resentment now, huge fear, huge distrust, and the sense that the system is out to get you because, well, in some ways it is. But we, including me, I'm big guilty of falling into paranoia because I see they're out to get me here. They're out to get me here. Why wouldn't they be out to get me here? And I've had to look and go, no, there's nobody there, dude. You're running from ghosts. So it's money and the explosion of students has created just a tidal wave of woke nonsense. It's not political. It's a mass psychosis.
Yes. And one thing that Brian said in the chat, the rebellious youth meme was also subverted by corporations. So I think in addition to all that you said, there was also a period where they kind and it happened enough, the rebellious youth thing. There was maybe 2 or 3 generations to a point where they caught the pattern for corporations to completely formulate what works and what doesn't work.
It stopped being lame to be sponsored by Coke, but there was a time, and I was a youth for this time, where Slipknot couldn't be fucking sponsored by Coca-Cola. Marilyn Manson couldn't be sponsored by BMW. And I'll tell you the moment Iggy Pop was sponsored by a British insurance company, and I think that was 2006. And I remember seeing that and going, okay, the world's changed. And I went to my uncle, who's like in his late 50s now, and I said to him, he was a big Iggy Pop fan. I said, what do you think about Iggy Pop doing that? Do you not see him as a bit of a sellout? He's like dancing around in his pants for a British insurance company. And he was like, well, he's divorced. He needs money. They're paying him money, and that's that. And I thought, that's an interesting shift. My uncle was a biker who would fight with rockers and get arrested. So he was a lunatic for this other ideology from a long time ago. And now you say to him, what do you think about one of your heroes doing that? And he's like, as long as he's making money, he's okay. So there's this slow boiled corporatism to all of us. It's in everything. We're all corporatized.
I have it too now, but I didn't grow up like that as well. And I remember watching Billy Corgan on Rogan, and he was saying, like, I grew up in a generation that if we had a deal from Pepsi, that we would sell, it would be known as us selling the fuck out. And it was
he said that?
Yeah, he said something like, if you were,
I should listen.
It's a great podcast, the Smashing Pumpkins, Billy Corgan with Rogan. But yeah, talking about the generational differences of, I also noticed something interesting too, where as I'm absorbing a lot of this type of Gen X media, whatever, I purposely just didn't want to fuck with brands really. I had a time period where I was still like 13 wearing Nikes and Supreme shit. But at my core, I just never believed this nonsense. I'm like, fuck these
Yeah.
brand names. But now it's a rite of passage to be sponsored by big name clothing brands. It's the influencer culture. Like like that means you're official to be
Yeah.
sponsored by
It's
Pepsi
the
or
opposite now. It's the
yeah.
opposite.
Like you're an official artist and musician now if you sold out.
Wasn't I just flexing with you today about how, like, if I post on a Rogan podcast from my blue ticked account, I get like 1,000 likes.
Yeah.
But if
Yeah.
I do it with my other account that's not got the official, because that's a corporation, YouTube's a corporation. If YouTube doesn't rubber stamp me, doesn't get the likes. I can say anything. I can be like pee pee poo poo papa, and people just go, oh, likes. He's got a blue tick next to his fucking name.
Yeah, it's like it's always it's corporate validation is what gets you clout now, which is really strange.
Well then we've been absorbed by the narcissistic mother at the behest of the psychopathic father into the material maternal womb. We're back into the matrix then, and it's through money was the way through, which makes it hard. In the days of George Carlin in the early 90s, if you rebelled, you would have an audience. I mean, I remember when, I know it sounds so goofy to talk about your youth and the big acts, but like Guns N' Roses in 1991, and you'd see these fucking concerts that would fill out, and it was this multi-platinum award-winning album, Use Your Illusion. You couldn't escape it.
I have something here. I'm gonna try to work it out in real time now. So because we're talking about influencers and we are in influencer culture, whatever that means, everyone has the ability to possibly make it as an influencer. You've seen it on TikTok and Instagram. Everyone can do it. So what happens is, even though this is a good thing in terms of giving opportunity to anybody to make a living and have a paycheck through influencing, whatever the fuck that means, that means that it primes people to behave in a way that allows them to gain corporate validation and sponsorships.
Yes.
Therefore, everyone is unconsciously behaving as if they could get a corporate sponsorship, or they follow the values of what the corporations gave to us in order to have the chance of either being accepted within that influencer niche or to become the influencer yourself.
I think you just put that very succinctly. Yeah, I think that's it. There's a book I just read last week, but it's a new book by Stephen Pressfield. It's called Man at Arms, and it gets into a little bit of the Roman methodology of taking over countries and religions, and it actually got me into reading a bunch of other books that, you know, try to present the case that the story of Christianity as we know it is actually written. The New Testament is written by Romans for a particular purpose, to reappropriate and to reabsorb Jewish culture, because they were having problems with the Jews, and so they gave them what they wanted, but they gave them what they wanted with a spin that made life easier for them. Whether they did or they didn't doesn't matter. This was a Roman strategy. You want to worship on the 25th of December, fine, but worship in the name of Jesus. Okay, Mithras, you break bread and drink wine in the name of Mithras, fine, but just do it in the name of Jesus. So there's this compromise. And they taught the world how to rule. They wrote the books, and the books have survived. They wrote the strategies, and you can really see it. So with the corporations, they've done, it's Roman rule. They've taken over. They've taken over the gods of the modern world of the stars, and they've got them eating out of their hand. Just a little compromise. Like, we don't hate you. We don't think you're awful. We don't want to destroy punk. Like in the old days with the British government, they would get the Sex Pistols in an interview and just be like, well, you're a bunch of very naughty boys, aren't you? Aren't you silly? And of course, the Sex Pistols grew in popularity because they'd be like, oh, fuck off, you old wanker. And everybody would go, yay. Well, we don't do that now. You get the Sex Pistols on stage and go, guys, you know what? I just think it's so brave what you're doing, sticking it to the man, telling him the truth. Isn't it cool? And then the Sex Pistols go home and they look on YouTube and they go, fucking hell, we got 5 million views on YouTube. once you've got people checking how many views they've got on YouTube, you've got them in fucking eating out the palm of your hand. Give them a bit of money. Sounds like you need some new roadies. It sounds like your contract isn't too good. Give them some more money. Had they been another time, they could have been absorbed the same way. Fortunately, you know, they went out before this time was here, but I'm just trying to make an example of what could have been.
So you know what it is? It's like big tech, social media, and postmodern technology is a conformist inducing machine.
Yeah.
Because what it is attention, meaning a mass amount of viewers who either agree on something about you, whether you might be an idiot or whether you might be smart. It's focused on singular collective mindset that is a conformist way of viewing the world in order to build a following platform or whatever the hell.
Okay, so people only conform if they're doing what the majority are doing. And what makes the social media platforms conformist is the like system, because they show you what the majority of people are doing.
Yeah,
that's why they like me when I speak on blue tick profile, because I'm pre-approved as a majority of people liking me. Yes. And that's conformism. So if you're liked, your likes and your follows are an expression of the conformism of the tribe that's following you. Fuck me.
Yeah, and I
have a headache right over my left eye now.
You were doing you had such a great last few days, and I had to come in to fuck it all up. But but so the thing is that I think this idea is one of the underlying premises of my recent thoughts, is that you can't have social media without even an inkling of an echo chamber. It's inherent in the structure.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe you can come in with a bit of opposition somewhere, but it doesn't work like that. The inherent mechanism, the gears that turn, are based on collective agreement, which is conformist. It needs that.
Yes, and it creates a cult-like atmosphere because it's part of the pleasure of consuming the material. I go listen to Joe Rogan, not because I'm really going to get, well, I don't really listen to him anymore, but whoever I listen to, I'm expecting more of the same. I'm not expecting revolution. I'm not expecting the end of the same. I'm expecting more sameness. And if somebody comes in and says this is shit, of course they get dogpiled, because everybody there watching the video by Dr. Global Pants loves Dr. Global Pants. And so if you say he's shit, we're all going to dogpile you. And yeah, of course it's an echo chamber. What, we're not going to be like, oh, why do you think this person? Tell us why. No, they just get dogpiled. So yeah, it breeds conformism and it breeds a cult-like mentality.
Yes, and I think I mean, you can't get away from it. It's just part of the mechanism.
Yeah. That you definitely can't get away from. There was something you said before that's probably worth reflecting back, which is from an Adlerian psychology point of view. You were saying that that you weren't feeling too good, and it made me just think, oh, I think what Adler would say about that is that actually the people you're connected with aren't feeling good, and that's why you're not. So it's not actually atomized, it's not individualized in you. It's that you're connected to a sick tribe, a sickness that they could get rid of, but they choose not to. They like the sickness. Then you connect with them, and then you feel sick as well. But you don't have to do that. You don't have to be. You don't have to absorb their pain for them. It's not necessary.
Yeah, and I don't know. There was just a lot there.
There is a lot there, and I think you're at a point where you're gonna have to create some boundaries around what you want your relationship with YouTube to be, with the Matrix, and what you want your relationship with your audience to be. And I've been, since we've known each other and we've had these conversations, I think much more aggressive with drawing those boundaries. And I mean aggressive, assertive. I'm like, I'll talk to you about this, and I'll talk to you this much, and this is where we're going, and that's it, and stay or go. It's risk. I've taken risks, drawn boundaries, and gone, they're either going to follow me or they're not, and that's it. And I think you're being pushed to a point where you're going to have to do something similar. You might not have to be as aggressive as I was with it, but you're going to have to start drawing boundaries and saying, this is my relationship with my followers. This is what it isn't. This is my relationship with YouTube, and this is what it isn't. So there's actual some delineation there.
Yeah. I think because of this echo chamber discussion, this conformist inducing machine, there's something about consciously approaching a social media platform through opposition is just kind of dumb. You know what I mean?
No, it is.
And I'm like, well, what could I do that doesn't come from opposition, even though I like doing it? You know what I mean?
Well, this again, the Adlerian approach would be to say exactly where you are and exactly what you're feeling is exactly where you brought yourself to. There was an intent to that. You know, were you trying to prove something to yourself? Were you trying to prove something about people? Even if it's not true, we should always explore the possibility that that's a game that we're playing with ourselves. It's like, this is the fiction we're living. What is it? What's the end of this story? Where am I trying to lead to? Because if you can figure that out, you can cut out like 5 years of nonsense vacillating back and forth before you go, oh, finally I decided to do this. You just go ahead and do it. Whatever it is you really want to be doing, go ahead and do it.
All right, so I guess I'm just going full Carlin on my YouTube channel. Can you imagine?
Yeah, I can. I
might do it. I got a green screen. I'll put myself on a stage.
From an outsider's point of view, I think that you're traumatized. I think you got beat down, but I see you, and I think most people would agree with me over here, is like, you have way more power than you think you do. Way more. Way more. And just like having, it sounds corny, but like just having a bit of faith in that and trusting yourself and having the belief in yourself to produce good material that comes from the heart, that's honest, and then just let it be what it is. Yeah, the same audience isn't going to love it the same way. There's just fucking no way that that's going to happen. But maybe it will change and metamorphose into something else over time that you would feel more comfortable with, which is so much better. Like, if you're waking up feeling good and going, yeah, I get to talk about this today, that's where you want to be. That's real wealth. That means you're rich, even if you're not making as much money.
Oh, thanks, Richard, and everyone in the chat. You're also supportive and cute. Appreciate it.
Should we take some questions from these good people?
Let's go. Let's do it. Thanks for the therapy session. How much do I owe you?
You owe me one funny dance on TikTok with your nunchucks and a bit of humping the chair. Folks, if you have a question, if you can make it one sentence long and end in a question mark, and we will do our best to answer it. We're not inviting people into the chat to video chat with us, are we?
Not today. Richard, it snowed here hard yesterday.
I saw on your Instagram that there was a snowstorm when there was 22 degrees, 5 days ago?
And then it was sunny an hour later.
It's crazy. That's fucking... Well, yesterday it was 20 degrees C, bright sunshine, hot day, and now it's like storm and wind. So this year, listen, folks, don't worry, the pandemic's going. What's coming back? Terrorism, global warming. Oh, yeah. They're going to keep us occupied.
As long as I can have fart jokes and some gin and tonic and beer while the earth is warming up, that's cool with me. Do we have to argue about the other shit while the earth is exploding? You know?
No, we can let it go, man.
That's what I'm saying.
All we have is time and each other. Somebody I saw. Sorry, folks, I'm not particularly good with the comments. They go by so fast. The book that I was mentioning is called Stephen Pressfield, is the name of the author, and the book is called Man at Arms. Man at Arms. And the book that the Romans allegedly wrote is a little book called the Bible, or at least the New Testament of it. Okay. SF asks, Are you willing to starve so that you can have wealthy content? I think that's a question for you, sir.
So that's a big. I don't have the answer to that, and that's something I'm also thinking of. Do I just treat YouTube content as a job just so I can get the income, and then I can? I don't know. Like, do I just make this fucking content and risk the money? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
that's a hard.
it's always going to be a little bit of a trade-off, and you do, as an entrepreneur, you do have to be courageous and take risks, but these risks should be calculated for sure.
Hmm.
Why is it so fearful to not follow the herd and do what's right for us? What do you think, Pierre?
I mean, we can go through like the evolutionary perspective, right? If you didn't follow the herd in your small tribe, then you're dead. Like literally, you're gonna starve, or you're gonna get casted out, or you're gonna get eaten because you didn't follow the herd to do that. But even I guess in the modern world too, it's like you get you're brought up in a semi wealthy middle class family, and if you don't follow what they say, you get kicked out. You don't know what to do with yourself. So it's just kind of, I think it's ingrained in us.
Is another question from Paramedic Yogini. Do you think there will be freedom of speech on social media platforms in the future?
Fuck no, it's over, dude. But it's interesting because the number one place for freedom of speech is owned by the Chinese Communist Party and TikTok.
It's TikTok. Yeah, we're both on TikTok. You can find me and Pierre on TikTok. We're enjoying it as consumers and content creators. But it is weird how it's a social media platform with distinctly 2009 vibes. It's weird. I'm getting like weird bits of history, stuff about magic, conspiracy theories, and it's great. It's fucking awesome. Weird stuff that has like 7 views on it, because you don't get that on YouTube anymore. You can't. It's really hard to make it big on YouTube now because they won't show your video unless you have views already.
When I browse TikTok and waste an hour of my life like laughing and learning on TikTok, I'll go to my YouTube recommended, and it's just the most negative shit.
Yeah.
The most negative stuff. This celebrity did this. This is the end of the stock. This blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yo, man, where the hell? It really provides a contrast, man.
Well, that you sent me a TikTok from a girl who was saying the difference between TikTok and Instagram, and she was sat there, no makeup on, eating chicken in a dressing gown, saying, "Look at me, this is what I'm doing." And then I go on Instagram, and it's cringe now because it's just influencers living pure lives within this.
Too hard.
Yeah, everybody's trying to be beautiful and photoshopped, and I was like, oh yeah. I didn't use Instagram before it was that, so I don't know any other Instagram. But I definitely can see the difference between like a TikTok platform and an Instagram platform. The vibe on Instagram is very, very conformist now.
Yeah.
Very flashy. Richard, are you getting back to the narcissism content more? Seems like it on TikTok. On TikTok, I can have I can talk naively about narcissism. You can't really do that on YouTube now, or at least I can't. If you started a YouTube channel, you would be able to, because it's become politicized with a small p. And I think like where Pierre's at, that's how I feel about doing narcissism content on YouTube. I'm just like, oh god, knowing that it's going to be consumed by a bunch of narcissists in a way that makes them even more narcissistic. Michelle D says, is the need to commodify yourselves to be marketable one of the most damaging aspects of being influencers?
That's a great question. Yes, in a way, and depends on how far you're willing to come to wrap yourself in shiny packaging. Meaning, how much are you willing to shift your public persona? Like, as I was watching that Reddit video of people that are friends with influencers, some people like completely shift their mannerisms, the tonality in their voice, their complete attitude to a completely different thing, vastly different thing. And that is really damaging to, obviously, because it's bad for your brain. So I guess it depends how far you go with it.
I've seen it in the manosphere where I get interviewed by a guy, and it's happened a couple of times. They'll come on and be like, "Oh, hi Richard, how are you? Are you good? How's work? Yeah. How's your knee recovering? Yeah." And then the podcast starts. And they go, "Hello, hello, today I'm here with Richard Grannon. And I'm like, what just happened to your voice? Like, what? Did you did you need to cough? Hello, welcome to the Manly McManderson podcast. We kill deers with crossbows and eat them when they're still alive.
But you know, here's the dichotomy here is that works. It works because it feeds into the echo chamber inherent in the social media system. I think when I look at my own platform, one of my biggest problems is that I'm not solidifying my commodification to one singular point. That was a sexy sentence, goddamn.
It was, yeah.
But I mean, I'm like shifting what I fucking feel that day and express myself in that moment, which veers off a lot of people that didn't sign up to see that in the first place.
Yes, and I think you've hit on something there that somehow as we waltzed through the minefield before, we didn't hit this mine, is like social media is a fundamentally reaction-seeking medium.
Yeah.
And so you're only rewarded by reactions. So of course you're reaction-seeking. So of course guys are doing that and posturing that because, as you just said, they get rewarded for it. The problem is that we're then mirroring the behavioral patterns and communication styles of narcissists, which is purely reaction-seeking communication. No sincere communication. It's just all for effect and likes and follows. And it is a problem. One of the things maybe that we should have a private conversation about is finance, just so that you feel like you're sat on a big enough block of cash that if you do something completely insane on YouTube, it's not going to kill you. It's not going to leave you homeless.
Yeah, that would really help a lot for sure. But I mean, I'll have a confession right now. Like, my whole Instagram is just pictures of my fucking face. Do I actually like it? Do I want to? It seems like I might have the personality that wants to do it, and I love my own fucking physical being because it's perfect. I hate it. I actually don't like setting up shoots of myself and doing the whole thing and posting myself 3 times every single time. Like, I don't, that's not really natural to me. I don't really enjoy it at all. But through commodifying yourself as a social media brand or whatever, you have to appropriate some narcissistic behaviors. You know, that's part of the commodification of it. And I mean, at this point, as you guys can see, I'm fucking rethinking everything because I don't know if I can keep this up.
I think I told you this. Like, I would post something on Instagram that would be like, how to recover from CPTSD or something that Freud said about something, and it would get so many likes. And then every time I jumped on a plane, it just became a thing. I'd take a selfie every time I got on a plane. And then I started doing it just to see how many more likes than the actual cerebral content it got. And I told Sam Vaknin about this. I was like, it's my face. I'm just taking a picture of I don't even have to smile, but I get like 500% more likes and more engagement for doing a fucking selfie than for actually saying something useful.
But that's exactly why I post a lot of my own face, because if I am building a job through this, what am I going to do? Sell people fucking carrot cakes and asparagus pies? Or do I give them donuts? You know what I mean? It's like, I mean, everyone's vegan now, so I guess they would pick the other choice, but.
Does it, I picked one and I've lost it. Sorry. I'm not particularly good at this. We've got a question here in Dutch. Heb je toevallig een boek met moedras? What do you think, Pierre?
Yes.
Question: what would you do differently if you would start social media now for the very first time? You couldn't. You'd be fucked. You'd never get anywhere. Sorry,
this moment now?
Yeah. Right now, get start again. What would you do?
I actually told my friend this the other day. I would go pure TikTok, like just complete hammering TikTok and doing nonsense. Like, and I would have had the drive. Like, when I first started with the social media, I had the craziest drive to get it done. And at this point, I'm like kind of burnt out. But if I had that same drive at this moment, I would just go hammer TikTok.
Have you written down, or have you ever verbalized what your intent is with social media? Do you have like an end goal that you'd love to see with social media?
Oh, here we're going back in therapy session, but I think part of this burnout and this crisis is because of my dissolution of my initial worldview and goal with social media,
Right.
which was to introduce a type of thought that you wouldn't see in pop culture YouTube world,
Okay.
and to possibly foster that type of discussion based culture or whatever it is. And at this point, that thing has just cracked on itself, knowing that I just don't. It's too fucking crazy now. It's not going to work, you know.
So my last I promise you, my last therapeutic question of this
Mhm.
podcast would
No, it's
be:
okay.
Do you feel like you failed in an endeavor?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think I feel a sense of failure as well as I gave up, and I don't like giving up about over anything. And I don't want to ever give up about whatever. I'm always with anything that I ever choose, whether it be Rubik's cubes or fucking boxing.
Right.
I'm always looking to it. But I think in this case, I just feel like I just have to let it go, and it's pretty hard.
Do you know what I did say that was the last question, and I slightly lied.
No,
Do
no,
you
it's
know
okay.
what the new mode, the new way of thinking? Have you ever sort of like expanded it out as to exactly what, well, not exactly, you wouldn't be able to say exactly, but like a more nuanced idea of exactly what that would look like?
No, I'm just trying to even figure out the new trajectory in general. Like, I don't
Yeah.
even know where to begin with that at this point, you know?
Well, when you started with the intent with this, you said that there was one of the things that you were trying to do was help people to think in a different way.
Mhm.
Do you know what that different way was?
Back then? Or
Yeah, back then.
I mean, it's not as clear as I would like to say, but, I guess it was just I guess it just wasn't clear, but, I don't know.
I can imagine from knowing you that you probably wanted it to be something that was fairly human, fairly well humored, that brought people together, that
Right.
made people who felt like they were ostracized,
There
that
you
they
go.
were a part of something.
Yeah.
Because I can see the value system in the videos that you've produced over time.
Right, right. Kind of a bringing a togetherness for outsider thinkers, you know what I mean?
It's just a real tragedy that you did it right at the peak of the woke explosion.
Dude, if that's the fucking sickest joke the universe has played.
I mean, your
Like,
timing couldn't have been any fucking worse. It was like you went, "I'm going to do this," and the universe went, "Oh, really, motherfucker?" Thanos.
what? Like,
Yeah,
if I even started 3 years before, I would
yeah.
have had enough
Well,
enjoyment in that time period. I would have had 2 years of a beautiful grace period, you know? But god
yes.
damn, what happened?
It's Zombieland. It really is an ideological infection. Nobody could stop it. Nobody was ever going to stop this. It's kind of got its own inevitable weight, and we're sort of eating. It's a wave, and it's eating through itself. But the snake is eating its own tail. It sows the seeds of its own destruction with every move that it makes, and it will end. It will end, and you could. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but like you could catalyze that. You are perfectly positioned to catalyze people. You remember when you told me there was this hashtag of leaving the left when I was whinging about my leftist brothers and sisters? You told me
Yeah,
about that.
yeah.
There must be a movement of people in this age group who are they're waking up from woke, or whatever the expression that they would have. You could be that person to be like, yes, we care about protecting minorities. Yes, we care about issues of social justice. Yes, we're left leaning. But the solutions we're being offered are too rigid. You could be the person who just opens it up and is being like, it's not just either or. It's not. We don't just have two choices. We have another way of doing it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, you know, everything has a funny way of working itself out. You know, things that are steps towards this thing that ends up being really good for you, you don't even realize you're in the
Yeah,
process of it. You know, so
yeah.
this could just be another one of those story arcs, I guess you would see in a film. So
yes,
maybe
you're living that part of the story right before you became the dictator of Europe. And it's not even we don't even live in a united Europe yet, but we will.
Listen, when everything opens, I'm gonna be the one standing on top of bar countertops. Listen, I have it.
we're watching take place like the backstory of either a superhero or a super criminal. And I don't know which it is yet, but that's what's happening.
Did it to us.
Pierre the dictator. And everybody like, no, there's no way. He's the last person you would think would ever be the one. And I'm like, that's what makes it perfect. Exactly. This is who he should be. And everybody watching, we're actually Pierre's inner circle. They'll be making documentaries on the History Channel in 70 years' time showing this podcast that predicted everything that came after.
And I would be keeping tabs on the hate comments on my main channel, man. Be like, oh, yes, BTS 5000. Come along.
He goes on the list along with his family. Okay, folks, we're going to take one more question, and then we're gonna disappear back to our relative dimensions. Okay. Questions, please, ladies and gentlemen. How would the world look? This is from Paula. This is the last question. Pierre, how would the world look if social media disappeared overnight?
Initial freak out, but the next action is to actually call up a homie. That's the only reasonable thing that I can see happening. People be like, what the fuck? Then they start calling their friends, and then they call their friends to talk to their friends, and then they meet up with their friends, and then we'll see what happens from there.
I agree. I think it would go like that. And I think the opening salvo in any future war that we could be looking at would be the sudden shutdown of, at least temporary, of the internet. And I do wonder if in that post, sort of the same thing in that post social media world, yes, initial freak out, initial trauma, but maybe if it went on for long enough and people went cold turkey and they were shaking and screaming like, give me back my fucking Instagram. After 2 weeks, they'd like, oh, this is better. I feel, oh, fuck, I didn't even realize how shit I felt all the time. And now I feel good again.
Let me just get the door real quick.
Certain. Yeah, the door. It'll be like, stop making noise. Stop talking to that stupid man over there in Ibiza. Nah, Carpasca says, question, what happens when the pendulum swings back from wokeism? I'm very worried about that. Very, very concerned that we're going to end up with some sort of ultra right-wing, nationalistic, ethnocentric, Balkan. It won't be global like this, like wokeism is, but it'll be done by different countries. Was that the cocaine? Did you receive all the cocaine?
Cocaine and burgers, baby.
Oh yeah.
Is this the question right now? Or
yeah, what happens when the pendulum swings back from wokeism?
I wonder if there's going to be a heavy conservative like rebellion. You know,
yeah. I think it's brewing. I think we can already see that.
Yeah, that people just go like not even like politically conservative necessarily, but just like traditional values. Like people start just having like stable families and shit. You know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think you can see that coming, which is fine. That doesn't bother me. Like if people switch it up and just have like conservative values and they're right of center, fine. I wouldn't stress over that. My worry is that we're going to go right the way across the spectrum to the other side of the room.
Speaking of which, I have to finish it, but I got through one half of Starship Troopers in the meantime.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
But is that what you have in your head in terms of the other pendulum swing?
I always just enjoyed Starship Troopers as a kid. It was like a cult movie. Me and my friends would watch it, and then I saw some stupid YouTube video that made me realize it was actually talking about American patriotism and a potential fascist future where they're in a perpetual war full of gung-ho patriotism against an alien.
Yes, and dude, there's something about how 80s films are just shot. I love it, man. I don't know what it is. It's great.
Yeah, it's more naivety. It's just a more
Yeah.
naive way of. You can almost hear the director going, "Well, here's some people in a room, so let's set the camera up over there where you can see them. Are they lit? They're lit.
That's
Okay, can we hear them? Yes.
I think I can sense that, and and
Yeah,
and it makes it a bit more genuine. I don't know what it
yeah."
is. It's charming, man.
Somebody told. I don't know how much of it is true or not, but like I've heard into people, celebrities being interviewed talk about Clint Eastwood, and that's apparently how he directs. Is like, are they lit? Yes. Can we hear them? Yes. It's a wrap. We're done. It's like we can finish as long as you can hear them. It's like it's just old school story. Much more naive. Where now everything is meta and irony and subverting audience expectations. You thought it's going to be this, but it's going to be this. It's crap.
Yes. No, it's great.
Well, I feel like we probably went on a journey that probably a lot of people are struggling with as well in different ways in different areas of their life. So hopefully that was you. I think that would be very useful for people.
Well, let's ask. Did you guys find that useful, or was that just me talking about millennial problems?
Was it useful? Give us a croissant. If you love Pierre and think he could do anything, then send a rose.
Here we go.
Croissants and roses. Croissant is useful. Rose is Pierre can do anything.
Yay.
Yay.
So, well, maybe I just need some sun, Richie. You know?
I'd say come to Ibiza, but the next flipping week here, it's rain. It's gone to crap. As soon as it starts to improve, you can come down here. You've got loads of croissants and loads of roses in the comments coming through. Thank you guys. Who wants to see Pierre in Ibiza?
Dude, why should we just like be perfectly okay just because I'm in the sun and that's it?
Yeah, and you go, oh, this was it the whole time. I just
probably
needed
is.
flipping sun.
It probably is. I'm gonna take some vitamin D, vitamin after this, and just see how it goes. But
yeah,
thank you for everything, my friend, and thank you everybody here for sending croissants and roses.
No problem at all. Shall I close this out in the traditional way?
Yes, indeed. I will be streaming, I think Friday, so I won't do anything after this if anybody's expecting, because I think I said that, but I won't be because I need to fart.
And they should go over and show some love to your latest upload over on your main YouTube channel as well, right?
Oh yeah, that would be wonderful.
That would be
And did
beautiful.
you know we've had a concurrent view count of 666 for like the last hour?
I took a picture of it to send to you after the stream. We've been 666 this whole time, kids.
Oh
the number of the beast.
Close us out, my friend.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you also very, very much for your time and for your attention. And we look forward to speaking to you again very, very soon.